Tomokui Kanata is a lowly piece of trash who fails to achieve anything in his life and is untimely yet miserably killed. However, he is reincarnated as a lowly goblin in a fantasy world, but he has a monstrous appetite. He finds an ability that makes him stronger as he eats more and decides to live his new life to the fullest. In the middle of the night, when the moon looks more dazzling than your life, a girl sits on top of Tomokui as she continuously stabs him in his chest, and his lifeless eyes stare upon the sky. The knife sparks and it lights up, and Tomokui is conscious enough to understand he slipped over the life's bridge that night. When Tomokui wakes up, he enters a fantasy world, and as soon as he opens his eyes, he sees an old goblin who calls him Goburou. The old goblin makes him do the Bear Grylls cosplay as he makes him eat a disgusting creature. The next day arrives in the blink of an eye, and Tomokui finds himself reincarnated as a baby. He finds himself with some other ugly green babies just like himself, and finally accepts that he has reincarnated as a green ugly baby. He starts to cry as helplessly as everyone would. The third day arrives, and Tomokui finds it intriguing how fast goblins get mature and hit puberty. After he slept like a baby last night, his body has grown way faster than he expected, and he checks it out. Tomokui becomes excited to learn he has regained a second life to not waste it like a loser. All of the other goblins gaze upon him as he leaves the cave, and they are left astonished. Day 4 makes a dynamic entry, and the old goblin gives the younger ones the same weird bug for their last supper, and from now on, they have to maintain everything on their own like they're some wildlife expert's cameraman. After their supper session, Tomokui gets out in the wild and finds himself in a forest. All of the other goblins follow him outside, and Tomokui finds the sky not so different from Earth's. Tomokui, now Goburou, for 3 days anyway, becomes familiar with another goblin named Gobkichi. The only reason he becomes friends with Gobkichi, the oldest goblin out of the kids in the cave, is to learn how to hunt in this world. Together, they hunt down an animal that looks like a ripoff of a rabbit, but with a horn. Goburou feels great to hunt down a rabbit with someone, but Gobkichi kicks the bucket as he moves in to eat the rabbit alone. But Goburou does not let him off the hook easily and beats him with the stick until he's unconscious as one of the most corny punishments ever. Goburou breaks down the rabbit's horn and feels relieved to show Gobkichi the true reason behind their relationship. However, as he goes into the thinker mode, Gobkichi returns from the lucid dream session, and he drools all over the meat. Goburou succumbs and gives him the piece of meat. Gobkichi cries as he eats the meat, and Goburou tells him to shut his trap up. The next day, they hunt down yet another rabbit, and Goburou notices it has a legendary horn. They continue to yeet off the horns from the rabbits, and finally sit down to eat some of Gordon Ramsay's level cooked food. Suddenly, Goburou's eyes shine, and in his mind, he hears a voice that tells him about his newly earned ability, escape. Goburou's mind clicks, and he remembers how in his previous life, he was born with a legendary ESP called absorption. However, in this life, his abilities have hit the reset button, but his escape ability is quite useful in this world. On day 6, since Tomokui reincarnated as Goburou in this world, a girl named Gobmi goes bonkers to hear about Goburou and Gobkichi eating rabbits' horns. She begins to yap faster than Eminem about how someone died because of their horns, and how cool Goburou is, and Goburou invite her tomorrow for the hunt. However, the next day it starts to rain, which forces Goburou to postpone their plan with Gobmi till tomorrow. In the cave, he goes into the storage to see what weapon he can make, but he surprisingly finds a group of captive human women, which is pretty obvious why, as a goblin nature is out of this world. The old goblin named Gobuchi sees Goburou in all motivation and says he can level up faster than everyone. Gobuchi tells Goburou how to see his levels, and when he reaches level 100, he will become a dominant life form, however in the body of a goblin. Gobuchi goes away and announces that the youngsters of their cave will return from the village tomorrow, and he will see the epitome of the goblin's life. On day 8, they together hunt down a 3-headed snake, While Gobmi acts as support, Goburou fights in middle range, and Gobkichi fights from the front. Together, they bonk multiple creatures and peel their skin off to eat them. Gobmi cries to eat something so good, and suddenly, Goburou learns abilities called Thermography, Venom, Venom Resistance, Search, and Evil Eye. This is all thanks to the snake they killed, and he decides to eat its head all by himself. No matter how ugly he is, he will do whatever it takes to strive in this world. However, on the 11th day, their curiosity gets the best of them as they go inside a cave to explore it. They get surrounded by blood-sucking bats. As soon as they see the bats, they run with their tails between their legs, but they strategize and manage to beat them all, thanks to Goburou's Evil Eye ability, which stops all of the bats. After they manage to leave the cave alive, they celebrate by eating meat and saving some of the bats for later. As the three continue to celebrate, other goblins see and become jealous. The next day, the red moon shines on the land, and some of the goblins gather around Goburou as they intend to beat the hell out of him. However, thanks to his search ability, he wakes up from his sleep and goes all berserk over the goblins who try to beat him. One of the goblins falls unconscious as he fails to distribute the poison on the horn. Gobmi arrives from behind, and when he sees a one-sided love interest in this situation, she chokes the other goblins while Goburou tries to calm her. On day 13th, the trio goes to the forest to hunt down another prey, which looks like a pig but yet humanoid, an orc. When they attack him, the orc knocks down Gobkichi, but Gobmi throws some rocks at him, which breaks his arm down, and Goburou arrives to take him down for good. An orc becomes their first prey of the day, and they celebrate as they have never eaten food before. With the orc's meat, Goburou achieves the manly power, orc language, and detect analyze. When he returns to the cave, he gathers the remaining meat for the other goblins and gives it to them for a feast. They chomp down every last piece of meat, and Goburou wonders if something has changed inside him from his past life. When Goburou goes to sleep, he sees some useless text information inside his head, and the last prompt asks about his evolution. However, he's too tired to care and swipes yes either way. When he wakes up from his long slumber, he finds himself evolved into a superior goblin with red hair and horns. He looks himself into a material and notices that he looks similar to himself from his previous life. Including him, Gobkichi has also evolved, but his looks have not changed. Meanwhile, Gobmi stays the same, and fanboys all over them. Gobuchi becomes surprised to see the boys that only spent a month in this world have become all grown up. Gobkichi asks Goburou if he can throw hands with him to check how strong he has become, and he agrees. In the middle of the forest, they battle. However, they both overpower each other in speed and have a fair share of blows. But in the end, Goburou manages to dodge his punch and sweeps him to hand over his defeat. After their friendly battle, they recollect themselves and praise each other's efforts. Suddenly, Goburou becomes Spider-Man and feels a tingling sensation, which tells him that some bad thing is about to happen. Goburou notices Gobmi hiding in the tree and asks her to bring his trusty old crossbow. Suddenly, a pack of wolves arrives at the forest, and they eat up all the rabbits and even the remaining orcs. The trip has them in their eyes and rush toward the pack to kill them all. Goburou jam-packs all of his abilities and uses them against the pack, while Gobmi uses the crossbow and Gobkichi uses his raw strength. It does not take long for the pack's leader to arrive, but the bolt's wound kills it, and Goburou eats it to retrieve its abilities. He gathers the other wolves and takes them to the cave for the other goblins. The goblins bow down and beg Goburou to teach him how to hunt, and surprisingly, he agrees to their request. All of the goblins cheer him up, and he thinks, unlike his previous life, he can take the path he would actually be proud of. Thus begins his life as the goblins' mentor.